In a significant political development, Marco Rubio has officially assumed the role of Secretary of State, a position that places him at the forefront of U.S. foreign policy during a time of complex global challenges. As he embarks on this new chapter in his career, Rubio is expected to leverage his extensive political background and connections to foster international relationships vital for the United States. Rubio, who was born in Miami, Florida in May 1971, brings a wealth of experience to the position. An alumnus of the University of Florida and the University of Miami, he has previously served on the West Miami City Council and in the Florida House of Representatives, where he held the position of Speaker. His political career has been marked by a focus on issues ranging from immigration to foreign affairs, making him well-suited to navigate the complexities of his new role. As Secretary of State, Rubio faces a challenging landscape that demands adept diplomacy and strategic planning. In a recent call for prayer from the Presidential Prayer Team, supporters were urged to pray for Rubio as he begins to work closely with global leaders. The team emphasized the importance of divine guidance in his efforts to strengthen foreign relations and tackle pressing national issues. Pray for Secretary Rubio to seek God's guidance as he works closely with the presidents on issues that affect the entire nation, the team stated. This sentiment reflects a broader expectation that Rubio will approach his responsibilities with a sense of purpose and moral clarity. The role of Secretary of State has increasingly been viewed as pivotal in shaping U.S. foreign policy, especially at a time when international relations are fraught with tensions. The ongoing conflicts in various regions, the rise of new global powers, and evolving threats require a leader who is not only politically savvy but also capable of building consensus among allies. Rubio's proven track record in politics suggests that he may be able to bridge divides and foster collaboration in addressing these challenges. In addition to his political responsibilities, Rubio's personal life continues to attract attention. Recently, his son Anthony Rubio made headlines by scoring his first touchdown as a walk-on player for the Florida Gators during the Gasparilla Bowl. The moment was celebrated by the senator, who expressed pride not only in his son's achievement but also in the team's camaraderie and shared faith. "Happy my son scored. But what I am truly proud of is the joy from his teammates and that he gave all the glory to God," Rubio posted on social media. As Rubio settles into his role, the implications of his leadership will become clearer. His ability to navigate the intricacies of foreign policy and build meaningful relationships will be critical as the United States looks to affirm its position on the world stage. With the global landscape continuously evolving, all eyes will be on Secretary Rubio to see how he steers U.S. diplomacy in the coming years and if he can meet the expectations set before him. In a world where the stakes are high and the challenges ever present, Marco Rubio's tenure as Secretary of State is likely to be closely scrutinized as both supporters and critics await the unfolding of his strategies and initiatives. In a dramatic turn of events within the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has publicly defended President Donald Trump's recent firings of senior military leaders, asserting that these actions are not only justified but also necessary for the administration's vision of national security. The dismissals, which included the removal of Air Force General Charles Q. Brown Jr. as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, have sparked significant backlash, raising questions about the politicization of the military under Trump's command. Speaking on Fox News Sunday, Hegseth dismissed concerns about the unprecedented nature of these firings, stating, "Nothing about this is unprecedented." He drew parallels with past presidencies, noting that several former commanders-in-chief, such as Franklin D. Roosevelt and Barack Obama, undertook similar actions during their tenures. However, while Hegseth referenced historical precedents, he failed to acknowledge that a chairman of the Joint Chiefs has never before been outright fired. The controversy intensified with the announcement that Trump intends to replace Brown with retired Air Force Lieutenant General Dan Razin Kane. This nomination, alongside the dismissals of other military officers, reflects a broader strategy by the Trump administration to reshape military leadership according to its priorities, particularly in light of its stance against diversity and inclusion initiatives within the armed forces. Hegseth claimed that the administration aims to fortify a lethal fighting force directly targeting military officials who have supported these progressive values. Critics have been quick to respond. Retired General George Casey, who commanded U.S. forces in Iraq, described the firings as extremely destabilizing. He emphasized that while the president holds the prerogative to make such changes, it is possible to adjust Pentagon policy without altering personnel. In stark contrast, Democratic Senator Jack Reed condemned the dismissals as completely unjustified, arguing that they signify an attempt to politicize the Department of Defense. He suggested that the administration is undermining the integrity of military leadership by fostering an environment where officers may feel pressured to comply with partisan directives. Hegseth, however, remains undeterred. He stated that the recent actions reflect Trump's desire to surround himself with leaders who align with his vision for national security. He explicitly mentioned that military officers unwilling to follow lawful orders could face similar consequences, hinting at the possibility of further dismissals within the Pentagon. The implications of these firings extend beyond personnel changes. They raise critical questions about the direction of U.S. military policy, particularly in relation to ongoing conflicts such as the war in Ukraine. Hegseth praised Trump's handling of the situation, asserting that negotiations with Russia are necessary for progress, a sentiment that has drawn skepticism from both Democrats and international observers. Reed, for instance, accused Trump of surrendering to the Russians and criticized his approach as lacking diplomatic finesse. As this situation unfolds, it remains clear that the future of military leadership under Trump will continue to be a contentious issue with potential ramifications for U.S. defense policies and international relations. The administration's drive to consolidate power within the military ranks signals a pivotal shift, one that could redefine the relationship between the armed forces and the civilian government. As the administration seeks to implement its vision, the question of how this will affect military effectiveness and morale looms larger than ever. Future developments will be closely watched, particularly how the Senate will respond to Kane's nomination and the ongoing debates regarding military policy and leadership accountability in a politically charged environment. As the political landscape in the United States continues to evolve, the Senate hearings for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., President Trump's nominee for Secretary of Health and Human Services (HHS), have captivated both supporters and critics alike. With the conclusion of his second day of testimony on Capitol Hill, questions surrounding his confirmation are intensifying, particularly regarding his controversial views on vaccines and public health policy. Kennedy's appearance before the Senate Health, Education, Labor and Pensions Committee was marked by pointed questions from both sides of the aisle. Notably, Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, a physician and the committee's chairman, expressed deep concern over Kennedy's past statements regarding vaccines. Cassidy recounted a harrowing personal experience involving a young woman suffering from liver failure due to hepatitis, suggesting that skepticism towards vaccinations, a viewpoint Kennedy has promoted, may have contributed to her plight. "It was the worst day of my medical career because I thought $50 of vaccines could have prevented that woman from experiencing liver failure," Cassidy lamented. He pressed Kennedy to unequivocally reassure the public that vaccines like those for hepatitis B do not cause autism, a request Kennedy sidestepped by insisting he would do so if the data is there. Kennedy, who has attempted to frame his stance as not being anti-vaccine, instead called for good vaccines and sought to redirect the discussion towards his broader health initiative dubbed "Make America Healthy Again." This phrase echoes Trump's campaign slogan and reflects Kennedy's vision for public health reform. However, skepticism remains among Democrats who question the implications of Kennedy's past remarks and their potential impact on public health policy. Following Kennedy's testimony, the Senate Finance Committee voted along party lines to forward his nomination to the full Senate, setting the stage for a decisive vote anticipated as early as next week. With a narrow 14-13 vote, the committee's decision underscores the contentious nature of Kennedy's nomination and the highly polarized views surrounding his candidacy. In tandem with his confirmation hearings, Concerns have emerged regarding Kennedy's stance on medications used to treat attention deficit hyperactivity disorder (ADHD). A recent executive order linked to his campaign has drawn criticism for labeling ADHD medications, particularly stimulants like Adderall, as a threat. This characterization has alarmed many healthcare professionals and advocates for ADHD awareness, who argue that it undermines the scientific consensus on the efficacy and safety of these treatments. Dr. Max Wisnitzer, a pediatric neurologist, voiced his concerns, stating that framing ADHD medications as a threat ignores extensive research supporting their use. With over 22 million Americans affected by ADHD, the potential ramifications of stigmatizing these medications could lead to increased misunderstandings and inadequate treatment. Experts fear that the executive order's implications could foster confusion and distrust among patients and caregivers, further complicating access to necessary healthcare. Despite the controversy, legal experts assert that Kennedy's ability to restrict access to ADHD medications is limited. Any significant changes would require actions by the Food and Drug Administration (FDA), which is bound by law to base decisions on scientific evidence rather than political rhetoric. While Kennedy may influence the FDA's priorities, the agency's established procedures and protections are designed to prevent arbitrary changes to medication availability. As the Senate prepares to vote on Kennedy's nomination, the implications of his potential confirmation extend beyond the immediate realm of public health. The ongoing debates surrounding vaccines, ADHD treatments, and overall health policy signal a broader conversation about the direction of healthcare in America. With his confirmation still uncertain, all eyes will be on the Senate's decision, which could set a significant precedent for the future of health governance in the United States. In a series of developments that underscore the complexities of political maneuvering within the Trump administration, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has made headlines for her significant decisions since taking office. On her first day, she implemented sweeping changes at the Department of Justice (DOJ), marking a decisive shift in leadership and priorities that is likely to have lasting implications for the agency and its approach to law enforcement. Bondi, who was sworn in on February 5, 2025, revealed in a recent interview that she conducted a purge of personnel at the DOJ, a move that reflects her intention to reshape the department in alignment with the Trump administration's priorities. This bold step was accompanied by her announcement that the DOJ would focus on combating violent crime, government waste, and drug cartels, which she identified as pressing issues during her inaugural address on the job. "We are sick and tired of Americans being murdered in these states protecting illegal aliens," Bondi stated, emphasizing her commitment to a stringent law enforcement agenda. The context surrounding Bondi's ascension to the Attorney General role is equally noteworthy. She was chosen to replace former Florida U.S. Representative Matt Gaetz, who withdrew from the Senate confirmation process amid allegations of serious misconduct, including sex trafficking. Bondi's appointment came as a strategic selection given her long-standing alliance with Trump. She previously represented him during his impeachment trial, a role that solidified her status within the Republican Party and among Trump's inner circle. While Bondi is now firmly entrenched at the DOJ, she recently candidly disclosed that she had been contemplating a return to her previous role as Florida's Attorney General prior to being tapped for her current position. "I was seriously considering running for Attorney General in Florida again because I was termed out," Bondi shared during her debut appearance on Fox News with Lara Trump. This admission highlights the political landscape in Florida, where Bondi was the first woman elected to the position and served from 2011 to 2019. Her potential return to state politics could have been significant, particularly as Florida's political scene evolves with new candidates emerging for the upcoming elections. The political ramifications of Bondi's decisions extend beyond her own career ambitions. Her warning to Democratic governors about compliance with federal immigration laws has sparked contentious debates across state lines. During a recent interview, Bondi asserted that states failing to adhere to federal directives would face repercussions, stating, "You better comply with federal law or you will be next." This statement was met with criticism from Democratic leaders such as Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who countered that his administration prioritizes lawful governance in stark contrast to the Trump administration's approach. Evan Power, chair of the Republican Party of Florida, commended Bondi's leadership, asserting, "She was an exceptional Florida Attorney General, so it does not surprise me she was considering a return to public service in that role." However, contrasting viewpoints emerged from the Florida Democratic Party, with Chair Nikki Fried contending that Bondi's actions demonstrate a pattern of politicizing the justice system. As Bondi continues to navigate her new responsibilities, her actions will likely influence not only federal law enforcement strategies but also the broader political landscape in Florida and beyond. With term limit discussions on the horizon and rising political tensions, all eyes will be on Bondi to see how she balances her role at the DOJ with the ongoing complexities of American political dynamics. The coming months will undoubtedly reveal how her tenure will shape the future of both the Department of Justice and her own political trajectory. In a bold move that could shape Ukraine's economic future, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent recently defended an ambitious proposal to develop Ukraine's natural resources, including critical minerals. This initiative, potentially backed by the Trump administration, aims not only to bolster Ukraine's post-war growth but also to secure U.S. interests in the region. The implications of this deal, however, are complex, as they come amidst intense geopolitical tensions and a backdrop of ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Bessent's op-ed in the Financial Times outlined the U.S. proposal, which envisions a revenue-sharing model where funds generated from Ukraine's natural resources would be allocated to a reconstruction and development fund. He emphasized that the U.S. would maintain significant governance rights over this fund, a move he argues is essential for ensuring transparency and attracting private investment. The agreement would include high standards of transparency, accountability, corporate governance, and legal frameworks necessary to attract robust private investment for post-war growth in Ukraine, Bessent stated. However, Ukrainian officials have expressed skepticism about the proposal, particularly regarding its terms, which they view as heavily skewed in favor of U.S. interests. The draft agreement previously suggested that Ukraine would contribute 50% of the revenues from its mineral resources until it reached a staggering $500 billion. Such conditions have raised alarms in Kyiv, leading to assertions that they would not sign any deal without substantial security guarantees from the U.S. The dynamics of this negotiation are further complicated by recent comments from Donald Trump, who has labeled President Volodymyr Zelensky a dictator and suggested that Ukraine is at fault for the ongoing war. These remarks, perceived as a tactic to pressure Kyiv, have not gone unnoticed. Ukrainian officials are wary of the U.S.'s intentions, fearing that the push for a minerals agreement might be a means of leveraging past military aid for future concessions. As negotiations continue, the urgency of U.S. involvement in Ukraine's reconstruction remains palpable. Bessent has reiterated that the deal is not about coercive economic pressure, asserting that the U.S. would not seek ownership of Ukraine's assets or impose additional debt burdens. This type of economic pressure, while deployed by other global actors, would not advance American or Ukrainian interests, he remarked. Nevertheless, the path forward remains fraught with challenges as both parties navigate the intricacies of international diplomacy and economic strategy. Looking ahead, the potential for a U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal could significantly influence the region's economic landscape. Should an agreement be reached, it could pave the way for increased foreign investment and a more resilient Ukrainian economy in the aftermath of the war. However, this will require careful negotiation and a mutual understanding of the risks and rewards involved. As the situation develops, the world will be watching closely to see how these negotiations unfold and what they might mean for Ukraine's future and its relations with both the U.S. and Russia. In a significant move that underscores the Trump administration's commitment to its America First agenda, Howard Lutnick has been confirmed as the new Secretary of Commerce. The Senate's vote on February 18, 2025 saw Lutnick approved by a narrow margin of 51 to 45, reflecting the ongoing partisan divisions in Congress. Lutnick, the CEO of investment firm Cantor Fitzgerald, aligns closely with President Donald Trump's economic policies, particularly his emphasis on tariffs and trade reciprocity. Lutnick's confirmation comes on the heels of a procedural vote that allowed the Senate to move forward with his nomination. The Senate Commerce, Science and Transportation Committee had previously voted 16-12 in favor of closing debate on Lutnick's nomination, paving the way for the full Senate vote. His acceptance into the cabinet is seen as a pivotal moment for Trump's trade agenda, which seeks to rectify perceived imbalances in international trade practices. During his confirmation hearing, Lutnick made it clear that he supports Trump's approach to trade, arguing that tariffs can promote fairness in trade relations. "We are treated horribly by the global trading environment," he stated, emphasizing the need for reciprocal measures in trade. His assertion that non-tariff trade barriers and subsidies disadvantage American industries highlights his commitment to reshaping the U.S. trade landscape. The new Secretary of Commerce is expected to play a crucial role in implementing Trump's recent directives, which include a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports and a 35% tariff specifically targeting Chinese products. These tariffs are set to take effect on March 12, 2025. As part of an overarching strategy to bolster domestic manufacturing and protect American jobs, Lutnick has been tasked with preparing a report on reciprocal trade relations within 180 days, aiming to provide a comprehensive analysis of how other nations impose tariffs on U.S. goods. In addition to his focus on tariffs, Lutnick has committed to divesting from his business interests to avoid conflicts of interest in his new role. "I will divest all of my interests, all of my business interests, all of my assets, everything," he pledged, signaling his intention to prioritize the public interest over personal gain. As Lutnick steps into his new position, the administration is also engaging in diplomatic maneuvers to influence trade dynamics with Mexico. Recent reports indicate that U.S. officials, including Lutnick, have urged Mexico to impose tariffs on Chinese imports as a strategy to mitigate the impact of U.S. tariffs. This tactic aims to strengthen Mexico's domestic industries while maintaining a collaborative stance in North American trade relations. Mexican Economy Minister Marcelo Ebrard has acknowledged the ongoing discussions, emphasizing a commitment to constructive dialogue. However, Lutnick's confirmation has not been without controversy. His potential role in re-evaluating the United States Postal Service (USPS) has drawn criticisms from labor unions. Following Trump's comments suggesting that Lutnick would examine USPS's operations, union leaders expressed concerns over what they perceive as an attack on public service. The National Association of Letter Carriers has voiced strong opposition to any plans that would undermine the USPS, highlighting the importance of this institution to communities across the nation. As Lutnick embarks on his new role, the implications of his policies and decisions will be closely watched. His alignment with Trump's trade agenda could reshape the U.S. economic landscape, potentially leading to increased tensions with trading partners. Meanwhile, the administration's ongoing efforts to influence trade practices in Mexico reflect a broader strategy to leverage international relations for domestic economic benefits. The coming months will be critical as Lutnick navigates these complex issues and attempts to fulfill the ambitious goals set forth by the Trump administration.